sure. I thought it was all done. I thought I was over. I was when I got this job, this TV job, I was doing a road company of My Fair Lady, the Lerner and Lowe musical. And I was, touring around. I mean, it was great, but I was in the chorus. I was understudying for a couple of guys, and it was like, it was good. I mean, my agent said, like, you don't have to do this. And I said, no, no, I want to work and stuff like that. So TV had dried up for me for quite a bit. I was like, out of the 90s was my heyday in TV land. And I was sort of, when sitcoms were all like Frasier was, it was like a multi-camera kind of thing, format.
Yeah,
There were
you did
four
a guest role in
cameras.
Friends as well, didn't you? The TV series with Matt
Yeah,
LeBlanc and Jennifer
yeah.
Aniston as well.
Yeah. The Frasier was a hit, and so my middle of the road agents were able to sort of get me talked into the other fancy rooms. So it's the trick, as an actor is getting access, getting into the room. Once you get into the room, and especially if it's a little more, the competition goes way down, but it's like, 10,000 people storming to try to get in the door. And
Hmm.
Frasier opened some doors for me, and then later Curb Your Enthusiasm opened a few more. But then things like kind of dried up. I came back to New York about 14 years ago. I had a sister who wasn't doing well back here, from this way originally. And multicam was drying up, and reality was taken in. It was so much reality television was so much easier to produce. So I thought, okay, it's time to go back to the theater. And so I did. Things are fine. I haven't had to, go back to being a cater waiter with my, stand on my feet. No, but then no, this came out of the blue. This was like and it happened real easy too. It was just kind of like I had one audition, and I said, "Yeah, I mean, I think that was it." So I got this. Yeah. Now I'm a recurring. I'm not a
Hmm.
series regular, but I was in every episode of the first, and I'm in like 8 of the, or a large portion of
Yeah.
this upcoming season. Yeah.
And tell me about your character, Mr. Johnson. What sort of role does he play in Deersville? What sort of resident or citizen of the community is he?
He owns the grocery store
Okay.
that the machine that gives everyone their life's potential, the sort of um that just shows up, the sort of like magical part of the show is that this machine shows up, and it looks like you put $2 in it and you get your little cart. It shows up in his grocery store. And so it's so I come with the machine basically. So, and D is sort of the grocery store is a convenient gathering place for, different people. Like Mr. Johnson is mentioned in the novel for like a paragraph, M.L. Walsh's novel. He's just like a paragraph, but um, you know, David West Reed, our showrunner, he expanded that, and he changed things a lot. It's a free adaptation of the original novel, but the novel does have there's a machine that sort of gives people their life's potential. But Mr. Johnson's barely in it, and I'm a pretty substantial part of this version. So.
And tell me, Patrick, Mr. Johnson, is he a grouchy shopkeeper? Is he friendly, kind, interactive? Is he one of those guys that is very moody, or what's his sort of characteristics?
If he was moody and grouchy, it'd be easier for me to play him because that's my bent. But he's kind of like he's pretty he's once you get a certain age, I'm like 68. Once you reach a certain age, you have two options. You can either be like a grouch, or you can be like sage and wise. And he's kind of, with the so I think Mr. Johnson's a little more sage and wise, the kind of thing. I've tried a couple times in season 2 to like shake things up a little bit to make him a little more,
Mm.
a little more annoyed at people, but I kept getting no, 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 no. We need this guy to be kind of closer to sort of kind, folksy. It's country. They're country people. It's a small town it takes place in. So he's kind of a little bit of the sort of a little stereotypical shopkeeper. Yeah, that's a good question, though. Yeah.
And tell me, is there a bond or a connection with you and Chris O'Dowd, given your obviously your sort of links in terms of heritage and sort of stuff like that? Do you almost feel that you can sort of relate to him and you can sort of relate to each other? And Chris is a funny guy, he's a comedic sort of a guy in terms of that. How do you found interacting with him?
Chris is he's yeah, he's just he's on one hand he's very he's so funny and warm and accessible and things. But I think he gets so I get along very well with him. Yeah, and I like to cut up with him and but I think he gets along with everybody, you know. You kind of get that impression, but he definitely and one thing else that I just really admire about him is, which seems very Irish to me, is that he's like sort of, he's always got a little glint in his eye, but then when it comes to the work and stuff like that, he's very serious. He gets very serious about, okay, what are we doing? Like this, what's this, and stuff like that. Not in any way, but he's there to do his job, you know. And I mean, he's hilarious on the show. It's not like that, but he's like sort of like he's very, there's a seriousness that sort of takes in. And that seems particularly Irish to me from my like, sort of relatives or, I grew up with. And they're kind of a serious people and always, humorous, ready to laugh, but they take their job seriously and they sort of prepare for it. And I think Americans are a little more, I mean, we work like dogs, but we are also like a little,
Mellowed.
yeah, you have to be cool, you have to be mellow, or you lose face in a way. You sort of lose if you're not like, yeah, yeah, whatever, dude, we'll do it. Yeah, like, okay, let's shoot it, which is great too, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
suppose coming from the comedic background, I suppose there's an element of respected, and I suppose he wants to be respected as a professional actor, not to be known as a guy who can give 100 jokes or 100 laughs a minute as well. I suppose there's an element in that in it. Patrick, in terms of the working week on set in terms of Big Door Prize, and I know you have a recurring role in terms of you appear in most of the episodes, but there are sort of frequent spells throughout each episode. What was the working week on like for you on set? And the times when you were not on scenes, did you hang around the set or studio? And were your days shorter compared to other cast members?
It's a big cast, so everybody's time is kind of limited in the amount of time that they're required to be there. Chris has a couple of young kids, so he'd go home to LA different times. We shot in Atlanta, Georgia, and I live in New York City. So the first season, I took an apartment down there, and I just sort of hung around in between, and it was nice, convenient, and they and I got to know Atlanta a bit. When they decided to do the second season, I rented out my place up here too in New York too. So, but the second season I commuted. I had them take me back and forth. So I just kind of went in for a couple of days I mean, sometimes I'd stay, there'd be like 2 days between me picking up another scene, but mostly I ran back and forth from New York. So I got to go home, but it's a 2.5 hour flight. It's not that big a deal. And so you go down, you stay and thing, but it's the idiom, hurry up and wait is a truism. It's true. So, I was in my trailer a lot, but I had plenty to do. More than I've ever had to do in front of a camera, Yeah, this has been like